focusing on not only the person's culture, but also on gender, or also on the income, whether the person comes from high income or low income.
For me, diversity is not necessarily about race or culture, but just where you come from or how you do things.
Ethnicity, so just your culture and language, traditions.
Diversity is basically having people of all different backgrounds, ethnicities, gender identities, sexual orientations, basically having as many people of those subcategories in a situation as possible to get as many different viewpoints as possible.
We're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 30% low socioeconomic. Kids that come from parents who barely make enough money to make ends meet. We probably have the next 40% or maybe even 50% that are maybe middle class, where mom and dad both have good steady jobs, they get by. We have a very low percentage of our students that would be considered from a high salary or high social group.
The diversity dynamic of my school is about 40% African American, about 40% Latino, Hispanic, and the rest international students.
Black students, Mexican students, Asian students, people with different religions.
My high school is very non-diverse. Growing up in southeastern Kansas, specifically in a middle class to lower class neighborhood outside of Wichita, it was almost 100% white. Not very many people were gay, and I'd say less than 1% were of any other gender orientation other than cisgender.
We have a lot of students that tend to have, there's more disrespect with women teachers. They feel like they don't have to listen to you. They feel like, you know, you don't have anything to provide for them, and you kind of have to gain their respect. You got to show them that, hey, I really care about you, and I do have something to offer.
My gender personally, I do identify primarily as female, although I don't really care how I don't care if I'm called they, them, she, her, or him, his. It doesn't really matter to me, and as I generally identify fairly androgynously, that's something that I've been able to develop as I grew older and be able to express more as I grew older, because it wasn't super safe for me to do when I was younger.
There's like a heavy bias against black men, for example. For the most part, whatever you do is considered masculine, or you're sexualized in that way.
We're almost entirely middle class. I wouldn't say we had a few like lower class areas, but it went almost entirely from a very small percentage being upper middle class to the norm being middle to lower middle class.
Our school we have adequate resources, I guess you'd say. We have in our high school, for example, we have a 1-to-1 computer ratio, so every student comes into high school, purchases the use of a laptop. So every student in school that wants to have a laptop can have one. We have some programs in place to help those kids who can't afford laptops, to get them so they have the technology available to them to use at home and in the classroom. We have, in some areas, better technology than others. Some rooms have their own printer systems, their own copy machines. We have LCD projectors and Wi-Fi internet service in every classroom, and most classrooms have at least a big screen TV where they can present material or information or have access to programs that they use within the classroom.
We have family advocacy program. They have recently brought in counselors and a few social workers.
Gosh, a lot of them. I would love to have a smart board. My wife has one at her school. She teaches at a military school. I see a lot of possibilities and positive things I could do with something like that.
I would probably take the social work and the counseling to another level. I noticed that in the urban core, of schools that when there's an incident, you don't have a lot of counselors. Like, you hear on the news where a person might have had an accident and then they're going to have grief counselors at their school. Our students experience tragedies on a higher level, but then there's no support. So they come to school and you'll talk to a student, he's having a bad day, and he'll tell you, my uncle got shot last night. And this not only affects him, but it affects a community of people. He may have cousins and friends there, and they're not actually given the opportunity to grieve. They're not actually taught how to grieve. And they're not taught how to have confidence in themselves as well. So I would, if I could create something, it'd be a confidence builder.
We have some special ed, some opportunities for kids that have special needs, but in terms of the backgrounds, for a small school, we have a really diverse curriculum. We have everything from the regular English, mathematics, but we have upper level mathematics for the kids that are planning on going to college. We have a lot of elective classes, arts, woodworking. We have some drafting type classes that are computerized. We have an agricultural program. So we can find background for any background a student has, a lot of different types of ways they can fit in.
We provide language translators. We have ESL support in our classrooms for those that are Hispanic, Latino. For those that are also for those that are Asian and from other cultures, we have support staff come in and work with them in their classrooms.
For ours, I don't think it has too much of an effect at all. Like I say, our racial sprinkling of kids that come in is relatively small, and for the most part, they come in, they fit right in. Students get along with them. They're accepted right into our community, and so I don't think we've really had any issues along those lines.
I believe that it has a big impact on and it affects our students a way that they feel like they're not important. So you see that in the gap. We have a learning gap, so to speak, in student achievement. Students, they don't feel that the education and the curriculum that's being taught is truly for them. No, I believe that it has to be implemented. It has to be inputted into it. The culture has to be, because of all the years that it's been geared towards one race of people, and the things that students are allowed to learn. I believe it's coming around. We're seeing more of it in our classrooms. It's especially impacting our ELA classes, where students are learning more about the Holocaust and other different historical events. But we still have a long way to go. There's still a lot of transitioning in our programs.
Paying attention to education about culture specifically, and not just colonialistic countries and nations, but actually looking into specific cultures, how to respect cultures, not appropriate, basically how to not be a really bad white person. And then also pay attention to the people that you're hiring, the people that you're surrounding your school with. Trying not to maybe fill up a school fully of white, straight, cisgendered people, if possible. I know it's not always possible in a lot of areas, especially in the Midwest, but if possible, look for as many ways to diversify and to educate culture as possible.